usual so we can put it on the YouTube channel. Hey, Brendan. Hey, Deb. Hey, Kathy.
How are you?
I am good. How are you guys
Hi.
doing? All right. All right, well, it's 10 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get started. So I know that we had quite a few webinars last week, so I really appreciate everyone that is on this call and still willing to learn. So for those of you that haven't met Gabby or Brendan on our marketing team, you're going to get kind of an intro to them today, some of the services that they offer, and also obviously some of their recommendations when it comes to branding. At the end of the session, we're going to open it up to questions. So if you have any, obviously you can ask them throughout if it's on the specific topic that they're running through. But if you have just general questions, we'll open it up at the very end of the session. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get started.
All right, thanks, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. I know you're used to seeing Sarah host these Wednesday webinars, but Brenda and I decided to give her a break this week after all of her hard work for the virtual summit last week. So for those of you who haven't met myself or Brendan, we make up the marketing concierge department, and I work with agents mostly on social media and digital marketing. And then Brendan, if you want to give a little introduction.
Hi, if you guys have not dealt with me, my name is Brendan. I've been here, oh God, going on 6 years, 7 years, I don't remember. I do a lot of different things here. I do a lot of graphic design, print design. I help with postcard marketing, photography, video walkthroughs, a bunch of different stuff. One of them being branding and logo design, which is going to be kind of what we touch on today.
Yeah. So Brenda and I often get asked a lot about branding, and a lot of our agents are wondering if they really need it, and the answer is yes, because my thing's not working. Sarah, my controls aren't working.
I'll come down, just keep talking. Oh, it moved.
Yeah, thank So yes, branding's super important because, as you all know, there's so much competition in the real estate industry, so having a strong brand is what will set you apart from your competitors. So branding also helps, I'm not on the right slide, sorry. Branding also helps potential clients gain confidence in you. So if a buyer or seller is looking to hire an agent, they're way more likely to hire someone that has put a lot of effort into their brand rather than an agent that just kind of has everything thrown together and doesn't have the brand established at all. And then branding also helps with increasing recognition. So this is extremely powerful, especially in real estate, because there's so many real estate agents. So it's kind of what drives a potential client to choose one agent versus another. So this quote that I thought was really good to sum up why branding is so important. So it says, in the absence of branding, all you're left with is marking the same things your competitors have. When you do that, you will always be perceived as just like them. When you successfully create a brand, you will stand out, you will lead. And then there are 6 main elements in branding. So a brand story, logo, tone of voice, imagery, typography, and a color palette make up a brand. So we're going to touch on each of these elements, and maybe it'll help you find out what your brand is missing, or maybe point out what you're doing really good in your brand. So first off, we have brand story. So branding all starts with knowing your clients. So look at where your clients are and what kind of clients you have, like buyers or sellers, if they're in luxury, buying homes or selling homes. And then putting this data together will kind of help you realize what kind of brand you can position yourself as, and it will assist you in crafting a message that you want to share with everyone. This is also a really great opportunity for you to highlight what is unique about your business. And this core message kind of is the biggest part of your brand because it's what builds trust with potential clients and will resonate with people online and offline. So everything should kind of circle back to this brand story. Sorry, my thing's really slow. All right. Next up, we have brand voice. So determining your brand voice kind of links back to who your target audience is again. So say you want to target millennials who are buying their first home, you may want to use a more modern tone of voice and try avoid to use like very complicated real estate terms because they may not understand that since it is their first time buying a home. And your tone of voice needs to be one that connects with your audience and they trust and they look to when they have a want or a need that needs to be met. And Brendan, you want to take it over?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of questions we get when it comes down to when you get down to if you need a logo or if you want to get down to branding, it comes down to typography choices. And everybody has a different feel and a different look that they're trying to capture. I mean, the most important part that I tell agents if you're going to sit down and brand is not only do you want your clients or potential clients to like your brand, but you also have to like it yourself. You can kind of see on the screen here, these are some just examples that I've thrown together for different logos that I've done for different people. And the main point with logos and typography is, you know, you want it to be legible. That's the number one thing. And you kind of want to have your logo explain kind of what you do to some aspect or play off of your name a little bit, as you can kind of see in that Cindy Shock example there. There's a tiny lightning bolt there that was kind of a play off her name. The top one, Lisa Mente, she's a Anderson agent, I believe. And there, you know, it says realtor right in her name. Same thing with Leo T. Flynn. And when it comes down to typography and your logos, it's you can kind of see in Leo T. Flynn's logo there. We went through a lot of concepts when it came down to doing Leo's logo before we came up with something that he liked, and he's been using that for 4 or 5 years. It's kind of gone all over the place, but at first we were kind of trying to stay away from script fonts because when you get into too scripty of a font, sometimes people can't actually read what it says, and that's kind of a problem, especially if it's your name. Just because you know, obviously, if let's say this is on a billboard and somebody's driving by it and it looks like a scribble, they're not going to recognize what that is. So we tried to pick a script font that was very legible from, you know, far away, but also kind of gave him a premium feel, which is, you know, why it's important. Typography choice is probably one of the most important things when it comes down to the creative process behind your logo to start with. So yeah, you want to go to the next slide there? Here's a good example. I don't know if you guys know who the Premier team is. So I actually helped them on a rebrand from their original logo. So they had the 3 Ps there, and actually, Sarah, can you share can I share my screen?
I'll send it to you right now.
Cool. I'll kind of show you what the process kind of looks like from beginning to end here. You can kind of see the color guide there. Now, when we sat down, they already gave me they gave me what colors that they wanted already. And I'll kind of show you what this looks like. Can you guys all see my screen? Can you guys see this? I'm assuming, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So originally their logo is what you see here on the top left. And as you can see, the typography is the main point here, which is the main problem. As you can kind of see this text over here, yes, it says the Premier team selling Metro Charlotte, but the way that it's written out it's not really impressive. So they wanted me to kind of come up with a new look and feel for them, and you can kind of see what that process looked like. So they knew that they wanted to keep the colors, which are found with. So we came up with brand ideas based off of their color scheme, and you can kind of see how crazy it can get The Premier team has 3 team leaders, so I was kind of playing off of, we have here you can see a P with a crown on it representing Charlotte. 3 dots would represent the 3 team members. I did the same thing here with each star would represent a team member, or on this one for a more modern look would be 3 slashes would represent 3 team leaders. And once they kind of had something that they liked, you can kind of see where we went from there. And this is getting into your a tagline that goes underneath the logo, and then secondary and third or tertiary logos off of their main logo. Originally, their plan was they wanted to say selling Metro Charlotte, and I kind of mentioned to them, you kind of got to think outside the box a little bit, because you may have a lot of clients in South Carolina. So instead of centralizing your brand a little bit too much, saying Carolina kind of covers all your bases there. But you can kind of see as we whittle this down, we had this P, and then they thought it would be cool, let's bring back the original P from their original logo, and that's kind of how this whole thing came together. As you can kind of see as we go down the line, the colors and everything stays consistent, and so we get to this. Now, a lot of questions that we get when it comes to branding specifically for agents is, well, how do we work with the RE/MAX executive branding? And you can kind of see we covered the base up here, because you have the RE/MAX executive logo, you have the Premier team, and you have because the goal here is your branding and your logo. It should be about you. I mean, you are benefiting from RE/MAX LLC as well as executives' great marketing and their name, but going and having this together as one piece is kind of what ties everything all together. And then from there, it's just as simple as putting this on everything that you do. I kind of show you some other examples here too. That Big Sky Luxury Vacation, the one that you saw there, and we'll get into colors a little bit later, but you can kind of see. So this is a 40,000 square foot luxury resort that's in Big Sky, Montana, and they needed a logo done, and they basically told me that, hey, I like blue and we want a mountain, and you can kind of see like how far this can go. So we had, down here, Alpine Peak is one of their, is the big 40,000 square foot resort name. Big Sky is what their whole branding concept is. So, choosing the right typography that kind of fits, a mountain, or, thinking of skiing and what people do there, which is why we went with the blue, because, people associate, cold and, snow with blue. It's very important. And you can kind of see as we whittle this down, like how far we get down. Their main problem that they had there was the luxury vacations they wanted to add in. And so you can kind of see as we come over here how we incorporated that as it goes down. And, this is when we come down to branding is what we do for, real estate agents and really anything. Scott Sadler, if you guys know him, you can kind of see his logo, his color scheme was the navy and the gold. And, he wanted it to be more Charlotte centric, so I went and found Charlotte and traced it by hand in Illustrator to kind of get the buildings in the background. I guess I did a decent job there. But yeah, I mean, this is why typography is a big part of it, because even if you think about the big brands now that you guys like, if you take away things from their logo, Verizon is probably a really good example of this. They just use a font called Helvetica. I'll stop sharing here. And if you just saw Verizon written in Helvetica, you understand that that's their brand. They didn't do anything special. It's literally Verizon, just out there. But everybody remembers that red check mark that they use. Coca-Cola is another good example. Really, other than that swoosh that they have, their name is just their logo type is picking the right font and stuff. So that's why making sure that you pick nice fonts and stuff, and how that typography comes together is very important when it comes to a branding scheme. Same thing with color palettes.
Hey, Brendan, I have a question since we're talking about logos. Sorry, Gabby.
Oh, no,
Do you recommend, when it comes to real estate, that the agent lists something about being a realtor or housing, or somehow makes that clear to who's looking at it? Or do you think, I don't know. What is your thought?
It's yes and no. I mean, I've kind of done both. If you are a realtor, throwing that in there is never a bad idea, because if we're just, if it's just your name that we're branding versus we're not using like a let's say a ligature, which is like, you know, a first name or first initial last name, then yeah, otherwise it's just your name and it's stylized. People may not understand what that is unless we throw in maybe a housing type of element or, you know, something that deals with real estate. And a lot of agents that don't do that, they don't put realtor, or they don't do something like everybody does, which is the roof line. I think everybody who's gone to logo tournament and paid for a $100 logo has Times New Roman font with their name with a roof line on it, and that's pretty much the standard one that you're going to get. That's where you benefit kind of the RE/MAX executive branding. And as I showed you in that Premier Team example where it said the Premier Team of RE/MAX executive, well, people know that RE/MAX is a real estate brand. So piggybacking off of that, if you don't incorporate housing elements or realtor, kind of checks the box there.
Awesome, thank you.
Imagery is also another great way to build a strong brand, because using that color palette in your social media posts creates a nice cohesive feed and makes you look branded across all of your platforms, whether it be print marketing or digital marketing. So maybe using the same editing style as well, if you want to talk on that a little bit, Brendan.
Yeah, sure. I mean, when usually what happens is you can see those artboards that I shared earlier. They, you know, once you get something whittled down from there, that's where the fun part from a brand perspective happens, because that's when you start to see your logo on things that you create. So that comes down to postcards, property flyers, your Instagram, doing, you know, your Facebook cover, and keeping your brand consistent is very important. And you know, actually, Sarah, if you want to share my screen again, I can kind of show you an example that I've actually done recently.
No, you're cut off. Just kidding.
It's fine. All right, so so I showed you Scott Sadler's branding over here, which you can kind of see. So I don't know if anybody lives in the South Charlotte region, but he recently just did a card that I designed here with his information on it, and you can kind of see what's going on here. You know, it's a little funny thing with Mona Lisa, you know, especially everything that's going on with COVID and whatnot. And then you can see the back. So there's his logo, and as I designed this, I made sure that I kept all of the same, you know, elements. So, you know, he's gold and dark blue, and we just have little elements of that. This is the EDDM postcard that he actually did, and he actually just did another blast yesterday. I believe he did around 10,000 or so of these. But for those who are wondering if print marketing works, he did get a $1.2 million listing off of this postcard. So he pretty much covered his entire campaign with just that one listing. So, you know, and people are going to see, you know, that his branding all looks the same. It just has a professional looking feel to it. And he's also benefiting off the RE/MAX name up here in the top. I have other examples as well. If you guys know Danielle Edwards, we just did another, I did a postcard for her where she just sent this out to a list, talking about, you can see her branding here with her logo and, you know, just her colors, you know, look and feel basically. And same thing here, when I was talking about ligatures earlier, a lot of people don't know what a ligature is, so I can kind of show you. If you guys know Panka, she wanted to use purple, so this is like an artboard where we are working on. We haven't finalized this yet, but as you can see here, like a P and an A, for example, would be what we call ligature. So the difference between stylizing, you know, your name, such as in something like this, where, you know, that just says who you are. Now, if we put that out there and you don't know who Panka is, obviously you would have no idea, you know, oh, it's just somebody who has her name stylized. It could be literally anything. That's when you can kind of see over here where we start to put real estate in there, or the word realtor, to kind of really hone it in. And you can do that too with certain you know, style elements, such as like a house that's stylized a certain way or placed in a certain, you know, area. And here's more examples of ligatures where I'll zoom in here so you can kind of see a little bit better. We're making the P and the A for her name look really, you know, a very specific way, or, you know, trying to stylize those two letters into some sort of graphical element. And the benefit of doing that is if we delete this part, for example, you know, if we just use this as a Trey Sherry branding mark, like after a while, as she uses this logo over and over in all her marketing materials, people start to associate that ligature with her and her branding, which is very important. So, nope.
Any questions, guys, on what Brendan's covered so far and Gabby's covered? Okay.
All right, so once you figure out all of these elements, your brand story, typography, logo, imagery, and tone of voice, it's now the time to put all of this into some marketing materials. So some things you can do to show off the brand are new business cards, postcard designs like Brendan just showed us, flyers, brochures, an email newsletter, maybe revamp your website and create some templates that bring all of these elements together for your social media. All right, that's all we had today. So anyone have any questions for us?
I have some questions, per usual. Okay.
Of course.
All right, so where for those that are like a little new to all of this, do you guys have any resources for where they can start researching, where they can find maybe some options for a color palette?
Sure. Actually, I hate to do this to you. You want to share a screen?
No,
it's easier to show folks there. So I have where I went to school. I went to a tech college, and I'm from Western New York, a place called Rochester. But one of my good friends there, he works for the Boston Red Sox there. He got a job with them. He's been with them for probably 12 years now. But I remember talking to him before we graduated, and there's a resource that people that work for big brands use, and it's called Team Color Code. So teamcolorcodes.com, and I'll show you what that looks like over here. I actually have it up, I believe. Shrink this. Okay, so can you guys all see this? So we found out after doing this for a long time, like if you've been branding or helping create logos, and I've been doing this for almost 20 years now, is that these guys up here, the NFL, the NBA, MLB, NHL, even soccer leagues, they've already paid millions of dollars for somebody to sit down and come up with color schemes for them. And you can kind of see up here, all the leagues are already there. So a lot of people, if they say, hey, like, I know I like this color. Well, if you go to like the NFL, let's just take that for example. Carolina Panthers, we're in Carolina, we'll use them. So when Carolina started their brand, they already have, somebody already came up with this color scheme, this look and feel. And the benefit of this is, as a designer, is that all my color codes that I need are already here. So let's say Gabby's working on a website, for example. She has all your hex color codes to make all your website already look and feel properly. From a print standpoint, I already have all the CMYK codes I need to make sure that when you guys print something out, that it comes out to that exact color. And you can kind of see over here, every single team has already been cataloged here. And it's funny because, when my friend started working for the Boston Red Sox, and I talked to him a couple of days ago before we had this webinar just to pick his brain on this. But they do have a branding book when you work for them that they give them, but at first they didn't have that. And he actually used this resource in order to pull all the correct Pantone colors because he's a photographer there now for Boston and Getty. But before that, he actually designed some stuff for them that they were sending out to people in the stands. So like if you went to a Boston Red Sox game, he would help design like the handout there, like your little booklet that they give you. And when he did it, he didn't have the correct color codes in there for the printer. As you can see here, we have a Pantone color. So PMS 186 is Boston Red Sox red. It's that color. He was using the CMYK code, which will get you close, but it's not the exact color. And he ended up getting in trouble because his boss noticed that the red wasn't actually correct. So I tell people, if you have a single color you like, teamcolorcodes.com, if you just want to see, team colors and see what they've already done, it's a great resource to come up with color combinations and 2s or 3s that, somebody's already paid millions of dollars to come up with all these combinations here. So I just use them to my advantage, because sometimes there's a color combination that I never thought would work. Like if you want to do big south here, you got white, blue, and orange. Well, if we use that enough, we can come up with a brand that looks good, with those colors. Another one that I use quite often is Adobe Color, and that's color.adobe.com. And this is another one here where we have sliders, and this will do all the scientific work for you, actually. So let's say you like, let's move this over and just make this a little bit more, yeah. So let's say you wanted to use like this color just as an example. We'll set that as a base color. Well, over here, you'll see all these different type of color things, and monochromatic, if I check that box, it'll give you all the colors that to your eye subconsciously all go together. Complementary colors always work really well. Usually when I try to design logos, if somebody comes up with something, I try to use a complementary color for like their secondary color. Usually subconsciously that'll end up working out really well for you. Same thing with shades. You use shades of the same color. If we click all these off, you can kind of see Adobe's already done all the scientific work for you when it comes to that. So typically if somebody gives me one color, I can probably come up with something that will to look good. But those are a good starting point for you guys if you're like, hey, like I know I like this color, but I don't know where I want to go from there. Those two resources are very powerful, because you may find something just looking through that you like. And as a designer, I mean, anybody who designs anything will tell you, I spend hours looking at logo types, color combinations, typography, and font work just to get ideas, and then borrow off of those to help you create brand or a logo or feel.
Can you share those links in the chat?
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks. Okay, I have another question. So with all of these different elements, is there a recommendation for kind of where you should start? Should you pick out your colors first and then kind of go from there? Should you identify kind of your target audience?
You don't necessarily need to have a color in mind. Usually what I do is I kind of ask people, like, do you want your name stylized, or do you have a team name? Do you have a group name that you want to do? Like Premier Team is not the same thing as branding Patrick Nooney, who's a member of the team, right? So you kind of have to start there, and usually most people, if they're, or some agents have like a LLC or S Corp or something set up, they may want to brand, they do their business under that, they may want that done. So usually you have to kind of decide there first before you get into like, hey, we're comping up stuff, because otherwise we're just, you're throwing a dart and hoping that I pick something that you like, which chances are I'm not going to. So you have to have at least that part done.
Okay, makes sense. So this is another question. This may be more aimed towards Gabby. So in terms of branding, kind of what's a common mistake that agents are making specifically with social media? Because I think that's a big one that people always stress about.
Yeah, I definitely think not staying consistent with the colors that you choose. So switching your templates up too much and just using random colors that really don't create that cohesive feed, and maybe even over editing pictures so they don't go with the rest of your brand. I think the most important thing about branding is sticking with it and staying consistent across both print marketing and digital marketing.
Yeah, I know there's a lot, and this will just be my perspective. You guys don't have to agree or disagree, but I've noticed a lot of agents that you can tell that they're using specific templates, but then those templates don't always, I guess, flow together, or to use your word, they're not super cohesive. So when you pull up like their Instagram or their Facebook feed, it's just kind of all over the place, and it's not reflective of their brand. And so sometimes it can be perceived, I guess, in the wrong way, when obviously they know what they're doing. They're selling good property. They're doing a good job. It's just from the consumer perspective, it doesn't always portray that way.
Yeah, I think a lot of agents try to pick templates that are super easy to find and don't really want to worry about editing them, but definitely make sure they match the colors and go with the rest of your feed, because someone pulls up your Instagram feed and it looks like a complete mess. It kind of turns them off.
There's a question in the chat. So We're talking about colors being consistent on Instagram and Facebook and things like that. For those of them that are out there using Back at You media, those aren't always super consistent. Do you have any recommendations for kind of how they can adjust or edit those?
I would definitely swap out those templates and use your own. So canva.com is a great resource. It's free to use. They've plenty of templates and you can easily adjust colors. So I would just swap that post out for one that you create within Canva.
I
I'll
think
put a link.
Spark kind of does the same thing too, doesn't it? Because then Adobe Spark is free as well, but isn't it?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty easy to use too.
Yeah, I think with any of the automated stuff, it's just always important to personalize it. So even if it's just a photo and a little bit of text, if that photo doesn't kind of represent the the area that you're servicing or things like that, I mean, you could just change out the photo and edit the text a bit in Back at You, and that would still kind of fit with your specific brand. But just having it automatically generate, yeah, you have a lot of inconsistency with that just as they're perfect. Okay. Any other questions? I feel like I'm asking all the questions, but I have more. Deb, go.
Okay. So I also see a lot of agents choosing to advertise their listings from multiple different formats. You know, like sometimes they use Megaphone, sometimes they use Design Center. And again, it's not consistent and their viewers don't see the same message.
Yeah, I definitely think that's important as well to make sure you have the same, your brand voice is consistent across all those platforms. So if you're trying to, like I said, millennials don't use a bunch of like complicated real estate terms that they don't understand in one platform and then another one have a completely different voice. It's really important to have a consistent message across all of those when advertising any listing.
Yeah, so like pick which platform you're going to use to advertise your new listings and stick with it.
Yep. That's the main part, especially if they're pre-done templates. Because you know, if you've been using something for a long time and you know you're happy with it, you know, if you start switching it up and you're like, hey, I'm using this new platform for 3 weeks and it looks totally different, and then you decide you don't like it and you switch back, well, now you're all over the place. You know what I mean?
I have another question. All right, so depending on the clientele that you're targeting or the consumer demographic that you're targeting, do you think that there's certain kind of like brand standards that you need to meet? And do you guys have any recommendations on that? So like based off demographics or price point or, you know, area, any recommendations on kind of just the basics for what you need to be doing?
I think starting out with colors, for like luxury properties, it's important to use like a nice royal blue or something that represents luxury property instead of like super bright colors. And then also the quality of like print material. Brendan could probably touch more on this.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, quality print material is definitely a thing. I mean, obviously, if you have let's say you have a $1 million listing, well, if with the amount of work you're going to put into marketing that property, I mean, it's not going to look real amazing to anybody walking in that property. Let's say you drop off a flyer and it's printed off of the, you know, the office printer and it's printed on really, you know, cheap office thin paper, and maybe the ink on that printer isn't the greatest, so it's starting to run out and all your blacks are all banded and stuff like that. You know, if you get nice full bleed flyers, which cost you like $30 for 50 of them printed on nice 16 pound cardstock, like it's not really like, why would you not spend the $30 to get something a little bit more high quality? Because, you know, people are going to associate you, especially when it comes to print material specifically, I'm speaking, you know, they're gonna kind of see that stuff and that's what they're going to associate you with, at least in my opinion. You know, I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. I used to smoke cigarettes a long time ago, and I still get stuff from Marlboro, right? Now, I don't smoke, but their print material is very high end. Like we actually, when I was in college, did a case study on them because they were kind of the first company that would send you really crazy print marketing stuff. Like I remember getting like a wallet bottle opener that was made out of pure metal with like their branding on it, and it was done in this really nice packaging. And I'm like, that had to cost an arm and a leg, because they're just sending these out to people. You didn't have to sign up for anything. If you ever, you know, use one of their coupons, you were basically getting it. And you know, they always use really high end papers. They use spot gloss, they use foil, stuff like that get your attention. And the thing is too, is with print is, you know, kind of stay a little consistent with that as far as all your print materials go, if you can. So, you know, if you're gonna like spot gloss something, you know, maybe throwing that on a couple of your print marketing, you know, if you spot gloss your logo or something, keeps it a little bit consistent. But, you know, paper quality is definitely a major thing that people don't think about. It's like, even if you get the newsprint's very thin, you know, a lot of people throw that away. Or if you get a really nice magazine that's printed on, you know, maybe something with some texture on it, even if you're not going to read it, you're probably not throwing that away right off the bat, because subconsciously you feel a little bit bad about throwing away a nice like magazine. Like, I must have bought something, for example, and you know, you get free subscription. So I get Cigar Aficionado randomly. I don't smoke cigars, but I get Cigar Aficionado every month now, and it's like the largest piece of mail I get. But they use really nice print material, and I don't throw it away right away, but I eventually, you know, put it in the recycling bin. But I feel a little bit bad about it, because I was like, man, that's like really nice paper. It must have cost a fortune. But people start to associate, you know, the quality of your materials too with your brand. So it's important to make sure you're conscious of that.
Any other questions? I think that last part is really what sums up branding. Like, people are going to associate the quality of your work, so whether it's your social media posts, the postcards that you're sending out, any of that stuff, with you as a professional. So all of those elements that Gabby showed at the beginning of her presentation are really important. And so it may seem silly to sit there and think about, you know, what your listing post on Facebook is going to look like, but in the end, that's what the consumer sees. They don't see everything else that you're doing. They see how you're presenting yourself. So I think it's really important. And if you're completely lost right now, you have two really great resources that you can reach out to, and they will help you pick out those colors. They'll help you set up your logo. They'll help you get your social media content and your postcards and everything all set up. So I think Gabby has a slide with their contact info, and if not, we'll send it out in the recap. But any last questions before we let you all go? Alrighty.
Well, cool.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by. We appreciate you guys.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. We're getting some claps. Good job, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.